Hello, Emma, and welcome to the Art Salon. It's lovely to see you. Where are you?
Hello, Jenny. I'm in my studio in Bristol.
It's looking very. It looks like a hard-working studio. I can see all sorts of implements of torture behind you.
Yeah, there's a lot of saws and vices and wire and various bits. Which
Yeah,
yeah,
gosh, and all that makes these.
it does.
No,
Yeah,
well,
well, a lot more than's on the screen. But yeah, they're a lot of time there. That's what ends up inside the sculpture.
yeah, fair. Well, let's talk about that. Let's take me back to the beginning. You have done some formal training, but a lot of your experience and expertise has come more of an apprentice route almost. Take me back to the beginning.
Yeah, so I studied art degree at Nottingham Trent University, and it was a lot more focused on the academic and exploring ideas and discussing a lot of work, and not so much hands-on, which I like. So I ended up working a lot afterwards, and learning from other people and by myself. And I worked mainly in a mold making and casting workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and so I could cast a lot of my own pieces. And yeah, it's kind of just snowballed from there. I still keep learning new processes today.
Well, I mean that's one of the interesting things about speaking to the artists is we're all still making a lot of mistakes, aren't we? And it's learning by that. So you've taken a more traditional route really in terms of it has been via that sort of apprenticeship and learning from others and working it out through your mistakes. So I mean you use everything from a pencil to a grinder to a bit of metal to a bit of stone. I mean I'm lost already. Talk
Yeah.
me through how you approach a new piece of work.
Okay, so I generally start with clay. That's my main go-to, what I love, the tactile nature of clay and working in that. And so I'll kind of try and sketch it out in clay a bit first, and then do some drawings, get some research images. And then, especially because my pieces are all quite dynamic, I have to then make an armature, which the clay can sit on top of and not fall apart. And
An armature is made from metal, isn't it?
yeah, made of wire, so you can see the spools of wire.
Yeah.
So you have to spend a lot of time getting that wire in the center of the body, and that kind of starts me thinking about the skeleton inside the body. And then when I start applying the clay, I feel like I'm building a figure from the inside out, really.
Yes, you're adding, aren't you? You're building. Whereas if
Yes.
you work with stone, you're reducing, aren't you? You're working.
Yeah, I've never quite worked that way from a cube inwards, and I'd be interested to see how my work would come out. But yeah, I'm much more working from the inside out.
So I mean, I've been to your studio a few times, and often I've come in and you're trying to get things to work that they don't fall over, that they're balancing right. I mean, there's sort of an element of engineering to it. I mean, I take the scorpion handstand here. That must
Yeah.
have taken, I think I saw that when it was being built, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a challenge in itself, hasn't it? That they actually physically work.
Yeah, hugely. It's really hard, and definitely various times in the past, you start working on the wire and you're adding more clay, and it turns out the wire wasn't as strong as you needed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm having to learn more and more how to fix and make sure you've got to have the armature right at the start. And sometimes you've extended a limb too far in the wire and it sticks out right down near the end. You realize it's in the wrong place, and it doesn't seem to matter how much time I try and spend getting it all right, exactly working out the maths. I think at the end of the day I just have to go with intuition, and that's quite interesting.
And you've got to balance that with the aesthetic. It's got to look good as well as obviously to work. So you end up with this armature that's filled and covered with clay. And what happens then?
So then need to make a mold out of silicone so we can reproduce the piece and cast it in resin.
Okay.
Or the various materials. And so I now outsource all of that to someone in London. And we make a mold, and then in that we can cast with the bronze metal powder mixed with the polyester resin to make this permanent strong piece, which is very akin to bronze. Though I also have done some bronze casting at foundry as well.
Yeah, because I have some bronze pieces here and some bronze resin. I mean, it's difficult, I suppose, to work in solid bronze if you're working at this sort of scale. It becomes
yeah. There's a lot more upfront costs. Yeah, but the beauty of working in bronze, cast bronze, is incredible, and it opens up a lot more opportunities. Actually, casting the more complicated dynamic pieces with small limbs in bronze resin is actually more challenging.
Yes, I bet. Yeah. So we've got that, you've cast it. What's this next stage now then? So
then it comes back, and then I work on the finishing. So all my sculptures, as you'll notice in the picture there, they're all such different colours. And so
blue, I don't know if you can see it, it's a sort of bluey grey, this one. I don't know if that comes out.
Yeah.
We've got greens, and we've got this sort of, it almost looks like rust.
yeah, the oxidized iron.
Yes.
So I love the matte rawness of that one. I think it works quite well for that particular piece because there's a lot of hard work going there. It's almost like all his blood is at the surface. And whereas the man on the book, I guess he ended up with a slight bluey tint that matched with the pages, which are kind of a dusty grey. You can still see the bronze coming through quite a lot, can't you?
You can, yes. I mean, it looks like concrete and bronze. It's a sort of mix. I mean, it's lovely and cool to the touch, but it's lovely and smooth here. But the details of the pages are very well worked. I can see, I mean, it is like there is individual, and I know from other, I think, was it Medicine of the Soul, the level of detail that you can get in is very good. I mean, one thing you notice about your figures particularly is you can almost see their muscles. You haven't left the bodies, you haven't smoothed them off. So
no.
Are you interested in the body, in the sort of biology of the human?
Very much so. So I think it's one of my big driving forces is I'm really interested in the anatomy. I think it's credible how our bodies are made up, and also that we're the most adaptive species on the planet. We're capable of doing so many things. Our bodies move in such unique, different ways compared to other animals. And yeah, I love drawing the figure and drawing just anatomy as well. I've attended various classes, and then I like to relay that into the work, and by applying the clay in a certain way and trying to apply it in the direction and the curves of the muscles, it kind of accentuates the movement and flow of the figure, and adds to the dynamics, as well as making what I think is a beautiful texture on the piece.
I think it's commented on because of that. Actually, it's often, and people really like it because it's there's a sort of nod to nature. It's not smoothed away and ignored. I mean, I know you yourself have for many years studied dance, and you have studied dancers and athletes and acrobats and all sorts of, to really understand the movement in firsthand, haven't you?
Yeah, so I'm a very active person myself. I love capoeira, which involves lots of agility and strength. And so, yeah, I guess that ends up coming into my sculpture as well, that interest in movement and the impressive poses that people can hold. But also, I think just by doing more dynamic pieces, I try and capture people in doing fairly ordinary things, but things that kind of explore about us as humans and what it is to be humans, and that kind of peering into a bowl, the curiosity of looking in, like what's she looking at? It poses and raises some questions rather than just a figure stood there looking beautiful.
Whenever I've had Tipping Balance, in whatever country I've exhibited her, people have always got to look in that bowl. They see her, and that curiosity, it's so fundamental to the human race, isn't it? Well,
yeah, definitely.
It is. I mean, that is an interesting piece because you've got you've got the three colours there that work beautifully. So on that level, it works. But you've also got, I mean, she comes away from the bowl, but they are placed to sort of tip against the bowl. is, what's the bowl made from? What's it like?
Jesmonite,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, a plaster polymer, and then there's a copper inlay on the inside, which you can see the copper. So it's actual copper powder there that shines through. And then there's the rough texture on the outside, isn't there? So there's lots of contrasts that going on that actually work all together as well. But again, that took a long time to come to that. You helped me a lot on with that one, Jenny. You know, quite a lot of the times I make the first sculpture, and it takes a long time before it's really in its finished thing. And it's so easy to just think it's just about sculpting the figure in clay and getting it cast, but actually the final workings of the colouring and the presentation take a long time, and they're the most important part, aren't they, to really bring the sculpture to life. It
is the final. I think this is, I mean, for those people that aren't that don't collect sculpture or are new to it, I mean, we work in editions with sculpture, don't we? And the lower the edition, the more unique and the more valuable it is, and largely because, I mean, often, Emma, you're working at least a year in the sort of design and development of a piece, and then it's not like an artist who could do a painting in a week or a day or whatever.
Yeah, no.
This is a sort of year's worth of work that's got to be considered, and your hair's pulled out and wine is drunk.
Yeah.
And then we make these editions. So I think your editions generally run between 5 to 25. They're in that sort of lower bracket, and that's important to you, presumably, so that you can keep developing new ideas and fresh ideas. Is that your approach?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's got to be, really, in a way, because like you said, I tend to be quite slow with, you know, creating new work. It takes a long time, a lot of effort goes into it, and so there's got to be a minimum edition of 15, but I don't like to make the edition numbers too big, because I think, you know, they're unique. I want them to be special to the people who own them. But also, like you said, if I did massive editions, I wouldn't be pushed to work quite as hard. Not that that's an issue. I'm working constantly, so I don't know quite what I mean by that. But yeah, it pushes me to keep changing and creating new ideas.
And I think you do have these two streams within your collection, and always have. You have the ones that have the more intellectual consideration or witty consideration. What is she looking at? These two holding the bowl, sorry. But then you have the scorpion handstand, which is just a celebration of what the human form can do, what anatomy can do, what athletes can do, what, you know, it's that sort of celebration of the physicality. And then you have, I mean, this is quite humorous, this one. He's never going to turn this page, is he? I mean, he's got to move that foot. But that...
Yeah, bless him. He's struggling to go to the next chapter, isn't he? That's kind of what
Yes, and haven't we all been there in life?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that.
That's what takes the year. I don't think you're a slow worker, and you're certainly always been a grafter. And you work on very large scale as well. I've had large pieces from you as well, and there's the technical challenges of those. So have there been artists that have influenced you, sort of very generally, you know, just as a person? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be sculptors, but is there influence for you, or are you not that interested in looking at other art?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. I mean, the dips in and out of how much I engage with other artwork that's going on. But Juan Munoz is a Spanish sculptor that's quite often stuck out for me, because he actually casts most of his figures. He doesn't sculpt them necessarily, but it's the placing of his figures, and there's usually multiple ones, and how they interact with each other and how they interact with their surroundings. He has them kind of peering into mirrors or sat on a chair high up, and it very much in a similar way that I'm interested in, by kind of creating an environment that they're interacting with, it kind of poses more questions and becomes more interesting. So I've always liked his work. And then, I don't know if you know Lawrence Edwards, who's a British sculptor. He does these massive, very rustic, lots of straw kind of sticking out, really work, but cast in bronze. He works from Suffolk, and I just find them so beautiful in their roughness, and he's kind of exploring notions of time that I find very interesting. So yeah, there are a couple of influences.
So you're back in the studio. Lockdown has allowed you now to get back, or the easing of lockdown has allowed you to get back. What's on the cards for Emma in the next few years? Because I want to know, because I'm running your sculpture.
Yeah.
It's so quickly.
I'm just, she's kind of wrapped up behind me. I'm just finishing quite a large sculpture of a woman ready to dive into a pool. That's a commission.
Yeah.
That's come to me for outdoors. And it's quite nice starting to work larger. I've tended to keep quite a similar scale quite often. So that's quite exciting. And then I've got a few more ideas in the pipeline of some things I want to do. But it's trying to find that balance between which pieces, if I want to focus on the more acrobatic ones or the other narratives. So
so I need to come around and have a little nose through your sketchbook as well.
I think that's what the next year, after I finish this commission, it's making lots of little pieces, not focusing on an end product, but just try and produce lots of ideas and then see where I can take, which ones I want to go forward with.
Well, I very much look forward to it. I'm always excited to see what's coming out of your studio, Emma. It's been a delight talking to you, as always, today. Thank you very much. And
thank
good
you.
luck with these ideas. I will be round shortly for a quick cup of tea. And just to push you on a little bit more. The nightmare dealer that I am. Emma, thank you. It's been a lovely.
A pleasure. Thank you, Jenny.
Bye-bye.
Bye.